Okay guys, kind of sitting down for the first time with both shells and just trying to get an idea of what do we have to work with and what some kind of ideas for main goals of how I kind of want things to turn out. The actual owner that I'm building this for made a few requests. He wants to have a voltmeter, wants to run a good LiPo, because he's wanting to run Hellcats if he can fit them, but it depends on how much wider the Centurion shell is over the Strife, because I'd hate to have to add a motor cover or something on top of the Centurion, because that kind of detracts from the fact that, hey, I've got a Centurion over the Strife. Now it's like I've got a Centurion with a cyst or something on the side of it. If we can make something tasteful and kind of tied into everything, that would work. I'm hoping we don't have to, so it's a little more discreet. But he's wanting to run Hellcats, voltmeter. I want to make sure we have a good storage somewhere for a LiPo, so we don't have to run a pack, some kind of box on the side or some external thing. So that's kind of the parameters we're working with right now. At least for starters, we know that technically these shells fit because we've seen others done before, so width isn't really an issue. It's more of just kind of analyzing how we want to do things. Like I said before, I've seen several where they take this drop off here and just pretty much whack it off right there, just chop it, and then cut out this area here where the Strife magwell is. So we've got that option. At the very least, if we can't do any other cool stuff, we know we can at least settle for that, and it should turn out pretty good. So, just kind of looking things over. There's actually, like I said before, I've never actually handled one of these personally, so this is my first real look at them, and there's a lot of cool details I've noticed. One thing that jumps right out, it'd be cool if we could utilize the magwell and kind of tie that in, and if we could wrap it around the Strife magwell and make it work, and just kind of take out this little area of dead space here between where the details here die, because this guy here is pretty cool, this little bump down, and there's not a whole lot of detail right through there, so that's about, what, 2.5 inches. You could shorten it up. Even be cool if we could do some cutting and use the jam door, since we'll be covering up the Strife jam door. Now this is, of course, more jam door than you'd ever need. That would be cool if we could keep this detail, at least in the top. The bottom would be, well, here. Take a regular magazine and yeah, there's really no way of making that look discreet. So you'd have a gap hanging off one way, unless we took a section out of the middle, which I suppose would be possible. We could take, there's not a whole lot of detail in the middle here for right through here, so we could almost take where this drops down up to, say, where this bump is, because that's right where this body line here picks up, and there's about 2 inches you could knock out of it, which is that angle would actually be doable, because right here it looks like there's just shy of 1.5 inches of extra space here within the magwell. So if we could take this right through here. Now granted, this doesn't affect the integration itself, but this affects what we're working with as far as the integration. So so just for the heck of it, I like to use tape once in a while, just for making marks on things. As far as, like right here, we can take and say, okay, if we take this line straight down, roughly, from where the magwell drops down, because this guy here is long enough that I think even if we shortened it up, you'd still have a jam door big enough to access the Strife, even if it's not really, I don't know, practical. As far as the shell will be a little bit taller, it might be hard to actually access the jam in a Strife, but at least add details, so it's not just kind of slab-sided. It'll add a little more character and everything to the shell. So we'll take where this drops off here and kind of draw a line straight down, roughly, and just imagine that's a cut, which I guess we'd want to do it on this side. So we'll say if we cut this out and bring it straight down, we're really not affecting any, all the lines we're dealing with are all parallel. We don't have anything where it comes up or down, or any joints or anything in the middle. So then if we also take another piece and say, okay, we'll take that, and we'll come just shy of this bump. I don't know if well, there's this body line here where it comes down. Can you see? Yeah, we should be able to see that. So we take that roughly straight down there. That, okay, I'm kind of liking where this is going. There's no other, we're still dealing with perpendicular lines. So basically if we whack, take a cut, yeah, right at about 2 inches through here, and eliminate all that, basically cut the tape out. We'll fill this in just to keep things kind of straight. So we know, let's just imagine, because right now we're going to do a whole lot of imagining. This is just the design and planning phase. We may abandon this whole project here altogether, but this is just kind of the talking out loud and brainstorming, wargaming a little bit. So if we take out, like I said, right about 2 inches out of the magwell area and bring that in, that will shorten up the functional Centurion magwell, which there's a lot of meat back here. I don't know if we'll be able to utilize, and I imagine we wouldn't. We'd have to do a lot of other modifying to utilize the Centurion magwell there. I'm just thinking if we can shorten this, the magwell area, and pull it back into here, well, then we'd have to, let's see, we'd have to shorten another area. We got another straight area through here. We'll just take a cut there. See, we'd be cutting into that tack rail a little bit, but I think we'll just kind of play around with this for a second. So hang on, guys. Draw a straight line through there. We're still dealing with parallel lines here. So even if we took this area out, okay, we'll play with this for a second. We take out this whole area. Let's see, up to, okay. So if we want to keep this line, because we want to kind of maintain the integrity of the whole magwell area, we don't necessarily need the little indicator. So we could pull a line through here and just bring this right before it drops down. Okay. Concern here would be now we're cutting into little pieces, so we'd have to do a lot of reinforcing here. So this would be an angle. If we decide to go with this, there's going to be some extra reinforcing just in the shell itself before, or as we're integrating over. So we take this line straight through here. We're eliminating the back of the magwell. Well, let's see. Just a lot of, not really any detail in here. So I don't think we'd be sacrificing much. We got the back of the magwell, which we might be able to play with. Let's see, let's size up. We know the grip and everything kind of has to match roughly. With the mechanism, that puts, let's see, can you see that? We'll angle that a little bit. If you line up the grips roughly, that puts the magwell pretty much right in line with where the gray mark is at the end of the little trigger guard on the Centurion. So let's make a mark. I got a silver Sharpie. I just use silver because, for one thing, it rubs off fairly easy, so it's easy to kind of cover up or smudge out anyway, and it shows up on dark shells, light shells. It's kind of covers everything pretty well. So just kind of make a mark of, hey, this is kind of where the functional magwell on the strife is going to be, regardless of what we do with everything else. This is where the magwell is going to open up. So I'll just kind of make a mark. We'll just write, that's a mag. In fact, for the heck of it, just for reference, let's line up shells roughly and say, actually, the magwell comes right up to this this kind of cosmetic seam right here, this little body line. So whatever we do, we can't do anything too crazy with this area in here where the mag is going to be, the strife magwell in the integration. And another tool I like to have is I've got a pretty cheap set of calipers here just for measuring things and comparing widths especially. So let's say strife magwell is 25 thousandths. What do we have to work with here is, okay, well, looks like, okay, the mag well on the strife is about the same width as this bottom area here. So, actually, until we get to actually fitting the two shells together, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to cut right on this bottom line, or if we're going to have to cut and this whole area here is going to be removed. And that's what I've seen in the past, just going off of reference pictures from other people that have done a strife Centurion integration. So we might be able to fudge it and just pull, basically cut the bottom box out of here to fit the strife mag well through, or we might have to cut up all the way into here, into this area, right up to this line. That's one of those that we kind of plan for both ways, and we won't know for sure until we start actually fitting the two shells together. So, but either way wouldn't be too bad. Depends on, let's see, how far down did that stick? That will stick down past. So I think this body line here would cover up into the Nerf logo area, so we kind of have to revise the strife mag well a little bit, just kind of cosmetically, so it doesn't look like one thing is covering up part of this. That's one thing I did on the Shrike, or the strife crossbolt integration that I ended up giving to Wacom S7, was part of the integration lapped over this little kind of perforated detail here on the integration, covered up part of it, and so instead of just saying, okay, darn it, covered it up, I thought, okay, well, I'll tweak it a little bit, and I ended up kind of cutting off the corners a little bit and giving it just a little more, a little different attitude, a little different feel. But it made it look more intentional instead of just saying, oh, okay, this piece is lapped over this detail. I kind of ran with it and said, okay, well, if I'm going to cover it up, I'm going to make it look like I intended to cover it up and make the whole thing kind of flow together. And that's one thing I try to do on integrations in general, is if I have to compromise on a detail or on a body line somewhere, I try to emphasize it almost, and either make cuts where you can hide details that aren't as important, or try to cut where body lines are that you can kind of trick the eye into saying, okay, this may not be part of the shell, but I kind of tweaked it a little bit and blended things together so it looked intentional, instead of saying, I'm at the mercy of these two pieces, one looks like it just stuck to the other. Try to make it look a little more cohesive. It distracts the eye from saying, that's two things stuck together. It just says, golly, that one thing is really pretty. Like I ended up doing that quite a bit with a Hellhound, of just trying to say, okay, well, this is a less than ideal joint, but I might be able to make some cuts or some adjustments to make it all kind of blend together in the end. And that's kind of what we're going for here, especially since we have so many details drug out so far, which I guess is the reason why so many people just make this line, cut this off here and just utilize this back here. Maybe I'm getting greedy and want to use the magwell detail, or maybe some of these details up here, and trying to pull them back. That's well, there again, it's part of the adventure of, it's an integration of, I've never done this before, other people have done it, but hey, let's see what we can do, tweak a few things. I don't know how this ends, so this is all unplanned. It may turn out really good, may not. So let's see what we got to deal with. So once the strife is lined up, we got the magwell there. We know the flywheels. Where's my Sharpie? Just getting some basic ideas of what we have to work with. Magwell's there. We know the flywheels are going to be roughly in this area, so we'll kind of draw a center line on the flywheel axis. So, I may not get so lucky and be able to use the magwell detail. The bad thing is there's so much tack rail here. We could probably sacrifice some, and there's such dead space here. And if I remember right, Rob with the Southern Brisbane Nerf Club, on his double tap, the twin rapid strikes with the Centurion stock, this dead space here back, bugged him too. And so he ended up cutting the tack rail off and moving it back and bringing that into a little more proportion, instead of having this just kind of a flat area right there. So we might be able to play with some things. I'm just going to kind of kick a few ideas around here. Okay, things are looking different now. We're out in the garage now, and this is a couple days later. My memory card got filled up, and I wasn't able to eliminate enough other stuff to make room for the rest of this video, and I didn't have an extra card, so I wasn't able to pick anything up over the weekend. Now we're back in action. Over the weekend I took a little time to, for one thing, disassemble the Centurion and get the internals out of there and make it a little more easier to work with. And also got kind of a little more look at the shell and make a few kind of plans. One thing I was considering, one of the problems we come across is, where to house the LiPo. And I've seen people run a pack on the side or underneath or somewhere else. And I think we can do better than that, but I also don't want to have the LiPo installed to where he has to disassemble the blaster to get to the battery. So I was looking at it, and there's this detail on the back, on the stock, that's kind of looks like a separate panel. I'm thinking maybe we can cut along this seam here and glue the two halves together and make a door, because there's this really nice little area inside. Once you open it up, that depending on the size of the battery he has, once you open up, make this kind of a door, you've got a nice little bit of area there, and you could even open it up a little bit more, getting rid of this guy. And so we'll probably work on that later, but that's going to be, after we've done a whole lot more cutting and we're actually getting into the integration phase. I don't want to overcomplicate what we have already going on. So what we have is, I'm thinking pretty serious about, utilizing the magwell and the jam door, and this keeps getting more and more complex, but I'm thinking if we can move this tack rail back to this point, that'll pull this back a little bit, but then we'll have to eliminate, we already looked at getting rid of this area here, shortening that up. What I'm wanting to end up with, and this is still, wishes, is getting the jam door shortened up, that 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and put up here. And the magwell will shrink a little bit too, and then move it and kind of tuck it in under here. This area here is a little taller, so I think we can fit this underneath to where this little drop down will come over this way. And I'm kind of thinking, since the Centurion magwell is so much bigger than the Strife magwell overall, even once we shorten it, there's still going to be a lot of meat on either side. So I'm thinking what we might be able to do is use that to our advantage and build kind of a flared magwell, like what Hawkeye 007 makes, or at least used to make for Stripes. Just makes the magwell a little more open on the bottom, so you can slide mags in and out real easy. So that'd be kind of a bonus. That way we don't have to worry about what we talked about earlier and covering up some of the details on the Strife magwell. We'll just close it up all entirely and have essentially all Centurion here, which will be kind of cool. Which also, talking to the owner, and I agree wholeheartedly, the Centurion has a really cool and surprisingly comfortable grip, and I'd hate to just cut it out the way you naturally would doing one of these. I'm wanting to see if we can basically cut down everything we don't need on the Strife grip to where there's just barely enough holding the trigger assembly together, and try to slide it inside of the Centurion shell. Again, we're hoping. And I took some measurements, and the Strife grip is just a little thinner than the Centurion grip, so I think we can hog out all this stuff in here on both sides and cut out the unnecessary stuff on the back of the Strife, and basically tuck the whole internals of the grip inside the Centurion grip. And essentially, the way I'm looking at things right now, we'll be able to enclose the Strife entirely inside the Centurion shell, which would be really cool, because the more I look at this thing, the more I like the Centurion, just all the as far as aesthetically, it's real comfortable. It's got some really nice lines and some details. It's just a mile long, and so that's what we're kind of hoping to move these details back. And I was really surprised at how well this thing shouldered up. I'm thinking once we get rid of all this other real estate, this will be a really, really comfortable blaster, and that's what I'm hoping for. But I'm kind of thinking we might be able, in our cutting, since all these lines pretty much are all parallel, we may be able to take a cut kind of through here and just play off of this this mile-long hole from the priming slide. Basically cut loose the whole top section and move it back so we can maintain. This has got the little priming indicator detail, which would be kind of cool because it's got this little bump and this other little bump that would be kind of fun to maintain. But basically we're going to take this whole works on the top and slide it back several inches, and I'm not quite sure how well it's going to work out because we are moving so much plastic around everywhere. But ideally I'm wanting to have, use up some of this dead space. We might shorten up this tack rail a little bit depending on how much shorter we get everything else, but end up with a mag well just in front of the grip, where the strife bits are. So get the jam door area right around in here and shortened up a little bit. Move all these details back. So for starters, I guess we're getting real close to some cutting, I think. I tried to plan this out on the computer, but realized that I don't have a decent program where you can kind of, cut and paste on a existing picture. So I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. But I'm thinking below this big hole, this big body line, everything below we pretty much like, and we don't want to mess with too much. But the top's gonna have to shorten a little bit. So I think we can save ourselves some trouble. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this line here where the shell kind of steps down, and I'm going to cut the magwell area free. And figuring we already have this line here, so I think I'll cut straight through here, follow this line here, and let's see, what do we got? This is approximately right about there. And what the heck? We'll just separate this line entirely, because no matter what we do to bring this back together, we can rely on this body line to kind of cover up for us a little bit instead of trying to join two really close areas and then having the body line not match up. We have such an irregularity between this layer and this level that we can do. This gives us a lot of freedom, and we can come back and be able to patch that up and make it look nice once we're merging everything together. So I think we'll eliminate this area through here. Cut this guy back here, and I'm thinking, for the heck of it, for the time being, we'll cut the tack rail loose, at least up to this body line. There's a cosmetic, panel line looking thing here. I think we'll cut it here, because we can always build a new seam if we can't get the shells to match up perfect. So I think we'll cut it along the rail, down here, and pull it straight into here. And essentially we're going to take out this whole section through here and bring this area back, eliminate this area entirely, and this one, shorten up the magwell area and the jam door, and slide it all the way back here. And we're going to hope it works out nice. So, for the time being, the strife will remain fairly unmolested, and I'm going to focus mostly on just getting the aesthetic portion of the Centurion cut down to strife proportions. So we're going to be whacking out, what, 6-7 inches of overall length. Basically taking the overall aesthetic of the Centurion and just shrinking it down into proportion. So we're gonna hope that this all works out. I guess I'll go get ready to do some cutting, and then we'll see how it looks. Well, at this point, we could still chicken out and build kind of the traditional Stripeturian build, but let's go for it. What do you think? Fingers crossed, folks.